I remember the night he came for my sister. The villagers had warned us never to be outside after dusk, for that was when Prince Jabari hunted. Not for game, not for war, but for people. Jabari was the first son of the king, but the elders whispered that he was cursed. His mother had died in childbirth, and with her last breath she had named him Ekwensu's child, a demon son. He ruled with cruelty, demanding offerings of gold, livestock, and sometimes girls. Those who refused were never seen again. That night my father had bolted our doors, but it did not matter. The prince's guards tore them down as if they were made of leaves. My sister Nia screamed as they seized her, but no one could stop them. My father begged, my mother wailed, and I, paralyzed with fear, could only watch. They dragged her to the palace and I followed. Hidden in the shadows, I watched them take her into Jabari's chambers. No one who entered ever came out. But Nia was different. She had always whispered prayers to the old gods, the forgotten ones. And as I pressed my ear to the cold palace walls, I heard a sound I will never forget. A scream, but not from my sister. It was Jabari. The doors burst open and a dark wind howled through the halls. Nia stood there, her eyes black as the void. Jabari clawed at his throat, choking, his skin turning gray, his body shriveling as if something was eating him from the inside. Then he fell, his lifeless form crumbling to dust. Nia turned to me, her voice no longer her own. "Go home, brother," she said. "I belong to the gods now." She walked into the darkness, and I never saw her again.
It had been years since that night. The village was quiet again. The winds no longer carried whispers of Prince Jabari's cruelty. But there was something wrong, something we couldn't explain. I had grown older, but the memory of that night never left me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my sister's face, and I heard her voice calling me. But she was no longer human. It began with the disappearances. One by one, children from the village began to vanish. At first, we thought it was just coincidence, maybe even wild animals. But then the signs started to appear. Livestock was found mutilated, their bodies drained of blood, their eyes wide open in terror. I knew deep in my bones that this was no ordinary curse. This was Nia's curse. One night I saw her again. I was walking through the forest, searching for answers, when the moonlight parted the trees. And there she was, standing in the clearing, Nia. But not the Nia I had known. Her eyes were still black, her skin pale, and her hair, once long and full, now hung in tattered strands like rotting vines. "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice trembling. She didn't answer, but her presence was enough. The air grew thick, oppressive. A cold wind began to swirl around us, pulling the leaves into the air like dancing spirits. Then I heard the voices. Thousands of voices, echoing from the past. They were the voices of the villagers who had vanished over the years, trapped between life and death, calling for release. They all spoke the same words. "It is not over." Suddenly, a shadow broke through the darkness, the ground trembling beneath us. It was Jabari. The prince had returned, but not as a man. His body, now an abomination, was a grotesque mix of human and something else, something ancient, something cursed. His skin was cracked like dry earth, his eyes burning with unnatural fire. His voice, when it came, was a rasping growl. "You thought you could end it all, didn't you?" Jabari spat. "But the curse I made was never just mine. It lives in all of us." Nia stepped forward, her figure blurring with the wind. She was no longer my sister. "The curse," she whispered, her voice a strange harmony of multiple voices, "lives on. Because of him. Because of you." I didn't know what they meant, but I knew I had to stop it. The ground split open beneath us, and the forest seemed to come alive, shifting and twisting as if the very land was a reflection of Jabari's torment. The dark shadow of the prince loomed above me, his form growing larger, as the voices of the dead reached a deafening crescendo. I turned to Nia, but she was gone, just another shadow lost to the curse. I was left with one choice: to end it once and for all. The only way to stop this, to break the curse, was to confront Jabari's soul, buried deep within the heart of the cursed land. hidden away by the very gods my sister had prayed to. But the path was treacherous, and I could already feel the darkness closing in. Would I make it in time, or would the curse consume us all? I was torn in my thoughts as I searched for a solution out of this predicament.